Joining us, we have Blanshe Musinguzi, a correspondent for the Africa Report, all the way from Kampala, Uganda. Blanshe, good morning.
Good morning to you. It's
How are
nice
you?
that you are praying Ed Kenzo.
I know, right? You know, I had to represent for home, seriously. Did you eat some matoke for me before we get into the matter? Have you eaten matoke for me? Have you thought about me this week?
I never ate matoke yesterday because I'm having a busy schedule, so hope I will eat matoke today or tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of Kampala, but doing a lot of things, so I'm finding myself in high-end hotels and restaurants where there are no matoke. The European restaurants, not the Ugandan restaurants.
Yeah, and the matoke is not made properly in the leaves and everything. Don't worry, I understand. But let's get into some of the stories that have been happening around Africa. So South Africa found itself at the center of several major headlines this week, from former President Jacob Zuma's controversial meeting with Ajay Gupta to the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Nigeria. Obviously, that happening in Nigeria. And then the reports of large-scale repatriations of foreign nationals from South Africa amid rising anti-migrant tensions. These developments raise important questions about leadership, security, diplomacy, and social cohesion across the African continent. Now, if I could please ask, what message does former President Jacob Zuma's meeting with Ajay Gupta, send to South Africans, considering the legacy of the state capture scandal?
I think the message that Zuma is sending to South Africans is that he doesn't care, not at all. It's also the issue that we have in the African politics, lack of decency. You deal with corrupt people who caused South Africa a loss of perhaps over 3.5 billion US dollars, and that was on his back when he was the president. Now you are still saying, I still want to lead this country. He wants to be a candidate in the next elections. But then you go back to these people who caused this loss for the country. You are really telling South Africans that you don't care about decency in politics, you don't care about corruption, and perhaps if he's going to be a candidate in the next elections, I can imagine that he's looking for money to run campaigns, to make his political party stronger. And he may be looking for this money from the Guptas. And Guptas will be happy to give him hundreds of millions of dollars, because as a businessman, you know that if this person you are bankrolling gets back to power, or his political party gets much more stronger, you could end up having business interests again. It's like an investment where you say, okay, let me invest $100 million, and if my friend captures power, I'll get billions in return. And if they caused South Africa a loss of 3.5 plus billion US dollars, and they are going to Zuma and they're looking for 10, 20, or $30 million, and Zuma is going to them looking for that amount of money, that is pocket change for them. And 3.5 plus billion dollars that South Africa lost to the Guptas is a huge amount of money when you look at when you give it a context. Like that's the same as the GDP of country like Cape Verde, which has been amazing in the World Cup, representing us very well. Yeah. While it lost Spain this morning 3-2, I was actually surprised that it lost Argentina 3-2. Yes. I was very surprised when I went to sleep. I thought, okay, Argentina is going to beat Cape Verde like 10 goals plus.
Yeah,
but
I know
it never did.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. You know, I think if people, sometimes when we think about numbers like 3.5 billion US dollars, it doesn't seem like a lot. But when you consider it's the equivalent of like the GDP of certain nations in the world, you know, the equivalent, and it can make quite an impact. And also when you consider the lack of jobs and all of that in South Africa, it is something that, you know, we really have to think about in general as an African continent across the board.
Yeah, it is. That is not a small amount of money that South Africa lost the Guptas. But for me here, the biggest question I think is, or the biggest issue that we should look at is political financing in Africa. I think Jacob Zuma is going back to the Guptas because he's looking for money to run his campaigns. If he's going to be a candidate and a strong candidate, his party was able to score around 15% of the votes in the last elections? That's a big percentage. So if he's looking to increase that to 30 or 40 or even 50, that means he's looking for a lot of funds to have structures across the country. And he's likely going to look for it from the Guptas. So the bigger question for us and for an economy like South Africa, which is the biggest economy in Africa, is how do you finance campaigns? How do you get politicians to have, with good ideas, to mobilize funds ethically or from good sources who are not going to be the likes of Guptas? That's a big question for I think for South Africa. Counties like Uganda, where I am, it can still be very difficult, extremely difficult, especially for politicians, even opposition politicians, to raise money from the public or to raise money from sources that are not going to have interests like those of the Guptas. But I think from an economy like South Africa, which is the biggest economy in Africa, you need to find ways of raising money from sources who have good intentions for the country. The Guptas do not have good wishes for the South Africans. So any amount they give to Zuma, their return would be through corruption.
Yeah, it'll be a very high price. Now let's move on to or shift focus into Nigeria. So with the withdrawal of U.S. troops, what impact could the withdrawal of U.S. troops have on Nigeria's fight against militant groups in the northern parts of Nigeria?
Thank you. I'm as another country which is one of the biggest economies on the continent and the most populated country on the continent. I always wonder why Nigeria cannot manage its security, cannot deal with the Al-Shabaabs. So no, not the Al-Shabaabs, the militants in the north. I'm always used to Somalia, sorry.
To Somalia,
yeah. I tend to write about the Al-Shabaabs a lot. Yeah. So I look at Nigeria as a country that I can compare to the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Democratic Republic of Congo has is the state security. I think it's a large country. Nigeria is also a large country. They are both. They are both. I think Nigeria has its population reached 300 million people.
It's 100 and I think 100 and yeah, Nigeria's it's got over 100 million people. I don't think 300 million people. No.
I think DRC also has a big population.
DRC has 120 million people. Yeah, approximately.
So Nigeria should be double of that. So then the difference between them becomes how much is the population of Nigeria?
Nigeria's population is 237 approximately million people, so it's quite a large number.
Okay.
Yes.
It's the double of the population of DRC Congo. So then when you look at their GDP, Nigeria is like the third or the fourth largest economy on the continent, but DRC's GDP is still that very small. So I'm getting this comparison because these two countries have faced the same security dilemma, that they cannot deal with militants across the country. So I think DRC, the situation has been extremely worse for the past 20, 30 years. Nigeria, which should have had an opportunity to deal with these militants, it failed in the when these issues came up, and that's how these militants ended up capturing and controlling more and more territories in northern Nigeria. So for me, my expectation is that if the American troops go, and if perhaps they also cut off the intelligence that they have been giving Nigerians, it should get worse for the Nigerians. And I feel bad for the ordinary Nigerians who identify as Nigerians and who face these militants daily, where government has no capacity to rescue them. So the bigger issue here for me is Nigeria must invest much more money in its security apparatus. It must train a lot more soldiers and soldiers who can deal with especially technology, because we have seen that technology in warfare is going to be taking a center stage, as we have seen in Iran and Israel, as we saw in Ukraine. So you need to know how to deal with technology how to use drones to deal with these militants, and ensure that actually these militants do not get access to drones before you. So I think those are the things that Nigeria should be thinking about, because if the Americans go and you are not ready now, you are not ready in the next 5 years, it will continue getting worse and worse. And that's how you can end up with militants controlling a bigger territory for a longer time. And then that's how we end up with debates of statehood, new states.
Yeah.
That's how they emerge. Militants control territories for a long time, and then that's how we end there.
I mean, I think I have, I understand what you're saying. I think on my side, I feel as though if there are in any country, if there are foreign troops that are there, they need to work very closely in partnership with governments. And people also need to be able to trust the foreign troops, you know? So I think we've seen a lot of, like Western countries, let me say, and their involvement in Africa. And on one hand, yes, they might offer great intelligence and military support. On the other hand, many people are not trusting of them, you know, they're not trusting of them because sometimes people have felt that maybe they've also played a role in it. So I feel like there is a bit of a balance, you know, and either way, it would require African leaders to be like, you know, there's nothing wrong with partnerships and collaborations, but African leaders to be equally involved and to also be able to ensure that whatever, if there are any foreign troops that are in their countries, that they're also playing to the benefit of the people. I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Nigeria, as the country that we know as it is, one of the largest economies on the continent, and one of the countries that we should be looking up to, I think it should be the one that should be providing security to countries across the continent, sending deployment missions. Somalia, to countries like Central African Republic, to countries like DRC, to countries like South Sudan, and etc. I cannot imagine Nigeria being in the situation that it is now. It is in now, that it cannot secure its borders. And it has not done so in the past 10, 15 years. And even when the US troops are withdrawing, they are around 100 troops, not very many. You are saying that everything is fine, our momentum is still very high, and we are going to defeat these militants. I think at the continental level, I wouldn't expect Nigeria to be actually asking for any support from its neighbors. It's the neighbors of Nigeria that should be asking for support from Nigeria. And for me, in that sense, Nigeria has been a disappointment on the security front.
No problem. Yeah, no. I mean, definitely. I think that the security in Nigeria has been an issue. I think the question is also just like the role, of how foreign troops should be playing the role as well. It's I mean, from the things that I hear, it's you know different people have different how do I say, they have different experiences, or they have different because you mentioned the DRC, you mentioned Nigeria. I mean, we can look at what's happened in Burkina Faso, all of that. I wouldn't say that the West is totally innocent in terms of ensuring that our borders are not destabilized. That's just my opinion. I know you can't say it as a journalist, but from my perspective, it just seems as though while yes, African leaders again should be more accountable, we also can't discount the fact that I do feel that the West has tried to have their hand to destabilize certain countries. So it's a 50-50 situation. But before I let you go, Blanshe, I wanted to just ask you, with regards to their reported repatriations of foreign nationals from South Africa, right? What does this say about the current state of migration and social tensions in the country, and what does this mean for African leaders across the board to find like solutions that are going to be beneficial to African nationals across all African countries?
Thank you. In Uganda, where I am, the first repatriation flight arrived, I think, 2 days ago. It had more than 270 Ugandans. The government has said that it's going to repatriate between 700 and roughly over 1,000 people are going to be repatriated from South Africa. So I have been asking myself, one question is, why is it that this South Africa cannot, as a government, cannot deal with these groups that we are threatening immigrants? And when I read what has been published in the South African press, I found that this is a much more sensitive issue, given the issues of unemployment rate in South Africa and failing public services. Political parties have just lost ground, like the ANC. If you come out in big force against these groups, you fear that you could lose more votes in the coming elections. And for me, that's a lack of strong leadership and vision for the leaders by the ANC, by the ANC and its partner political parties that are in government now. So on the continental level, our leaders have always been talking about open borders for every African to cross from one state to another. They have been talking about open trade, getting goods from one country to another. So creating a continent that has none of these borders that restrict movement of people, that restricts movement of goods. It's something that we continue, that our leaders continue to fail at again and again. And for me, where I am in Kampala, you're going to find their nationalities from all many countries, from Eritrea mostly, from Ethiopia, from Sudan. They are migrants now, from people from countries like Chad. Actually, you're going to find people from Nigeria, and etc. and etc. They come here to Kampala to do businesses. You are going to even find them running businesses of $1,000 or $500 actually. People come to Kampala as refugees and start those small businesses. And for me, I think that's something that the continent should offer, that if I want to come to South Africa and to run a business of $1,000, South Africa should be open for me. If a South African wants to come Kampala to run a business of $1,000, that should be possible. That's something that our leaders should do for us, open the borders. Of course, there are challenges around where are opportunities and where there are no opportunities. If you open South Africa, will everyone from the neighboring countries come to South Africa, and will South African go to the neighboring countries? That's the big question that our African leaders who sit in those big offices need to think about. Of course, for me as a person, I'm proud of South Africa. Nearly every year I come from South Africa, and I find it an amazing place. I have there many friends in the profession, and yeah, I find it as a good country.
Yeah, no, definitely. Blanshe, this has been an amazing conversation as usual. Thank you very much for joining us. Blanshe is a correspondent for the Africa Report. We do have to wrap up because we have to go to a spot, but really great talking to you. And please do not forget to have some matoke. And if you're feeling very generous, send some matoke to Accra, Ghana, where I am. I'll be very happy. Put it on Ugandan Airlines or something, or on Ethiopian Airlines. Make sure it gets here hot for me so that I can enjoy it very nicely.
It's a big pressure, and I think I need to find ways of starting to export matoke to all parts of the continent, from Uganda to Ghana, from Uganda to South Africa, Nigeria, and all African countries. Because matoke is the best dish that we have on the continent. Thank
100%.
you once again.
I agree with you. There's a business model there. Thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you again. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Africa Update on Channel Africa with